Howdy, I just read an article in the Epoch Times. Goldman CEO issues warning as interest cost on America's ballooning debt exceeds spending on defense and Medicare. And I'm going to include a link to this article. Honestly, don't know how you'll be able to accept it if you don't have a subscription with Epoch Times. I think they might offer a couple of articles a month if you want to read this article. And I'm going to include a couple of other links to articles about the debt and the change in debt over the last several decades. But I just want to highlight for a second a couple of things that are said here in the article. First, his remarks talking about Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon. His remarks come as the cost of servicing the United States ballooning government debt reached $514 billion for the first 7 months of the current fiscal year, becoming the second largest line item in the budget. Now, I know there are lots of different ways that economists and politicians can present numbers and information to try to make it look like things aren't as bad as they are, or like the framing of person A is wrong, so you have to listen to their framing. But to kind of put a pin in all of that discussion, the long and short of it is, as our debt is, I believe, at $34 trillion and climbing daily, as we continue to approve off-budget programs like $95 billion in foreign aid for conflicts that are going on that we haven't officially been declared a participant in, we the United States, as we continue to try to fund programs that have no actual return on the investment that has been measured and documented. The Pentagon itself hasn't passed any of 5 budgets or audits that have been taken over the last several years, and yet we continue to increase their budget. We need to ask ourselves why in the world we are trying to indebt ourselves to destruction. There is, in fact, no obligation, I would suggest, on the part of the United States to support or fund any nation in the world, although as a country we want to have engagement with the world, other countries in the world. As a country, we want to encourage and support those nations which reflect our values, or at least our interest, as obviously I would suggest some of the countries that we support don't reflect our values, just we have interest in there, in what's going on there, that are moral crusading as a nation about rights and individual rights and protection of democracy, etc., kind of falls flat when you look at some of the nations and situations we're supporting versus some of the nations and situations we aren't reporting. And just the long and short of it is, unless our politicians get serious about addressing our willingness to spend without actually considering what we have to spend, we're going to find ourselves where every indebted nation in history has found itself, and that is suffering destruction. So just wondering why we can't expect our leaders to be more intentional in shifting the discussion to our national debt and to how we're actually spending our money. We seem to have a broken budgeting system, a broken Congress when it comes to addressing issues that matter, just a broken political system and narrative when our focus is on one party keeping another party's presidential nominee from even being able to campaign in the face of a multitude of essentially spurious lawsuits, whatever the facts, whatever the actual wrongs may have been committed in the context of our discussion of them, with a candidate who doesn't seem to have day by day a clear grasp of what's going on or what his role is supposed to be, let alone his role as leader of America. So anyway, just interested in your thoughts on how we begin to address the fact that we are spending so much on interest payments, then getting nothing back from that because we have this massive debt that has been largely accrued. I believe in 1980 the debt was just over $950 billion, and now since 1980 we're at $34 trillion, with budgets being sent to Congress by our president that include $2 trillion of debt spending. So look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you much. Bye bye. Thank you very much for your time. I've got a couple other videos listed here if you'd like to take a look at those. And as I'd like to discuss issues related to politics, religion, society, and how in the world we're supposed to understand ourselves and life in the world. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.